All right, this is the ninth release of Raster Master, and I've added a few more features. And first off, the ellipse and filled ellipse or oval, whatever you prefer. Let's choose a color we can see. So now we can draw flying saucers and eggs. So that's it for that. It's kind of self-explanatory. You can play with it, but this was missing as a key drawing feature. It's now in. What I'd like to do is show you the new AmigaBASIC Export features. So if we go to File and select Export, select AmigaBASIC Data here. If we click on the drop-down list here, these are all the available export formats. So these have been explained before. This is a binary version, basically the XGF of the put command, the put get command. This is the equivalent. It's just in a file. The Bob binary is new. The VSprite binary is new. And these are the equivalent data statements of the same files, of the same image, but in data statement files. So I'll go over each of these and demonstrate how to use them. And let's just start off with clearing everything. And let's just flip over to, let's go with 4 colors because I want to demonstrate the VSprite options. So let's just draw something. Let's draw a nice oval and okay. I'm gonna change the palette now, and I'm gonna modify these colors, make them something that they're not by default. And okay, that looks good. We're not going to modify the blue because that's the transparent color. So with VSprites, you can't use that color. It's just transparent. And I will click on the select area tool. Oh, that's way too big. Okay, I'm not going to draw it again. I'm just going to take half of it basically because a VSprite can only be 16 pixels, but it could be any size tall. So if we go to File, Export, AmigaBASIC, and choose the VSprite binary, and let's call it P1, just for short, VSP, P1 VSP. All right. Now I'm going to go into my Visual Studio Code if I can find it. Here we go. And it was P1 VSP. Now, even though the call routine here says read Bob file, it reads VSprites as well. And let's just change this to $P$, $P$, and let's change this to 1, 1, 1. And I will comment these out. Okay. All right, so what I've done is just updated my demo program, and I'm going to jump into the Amiga emulator now and reload that. Yeah, working inside the AmigaBASIC editor is just awful. It's a terrible editor. I know for its time it was probably fine, but now it's difficult to do anything. So if we run the program, we can see this shape right here. This is the one we just exported. Let me bring. There you go. So you can see that the VSprite is the same as what we edited in the editor, including the palette changes. So it actually stores those palette changes in the actual file. So what I'd like to do next is export the same VSprite basically, but export it to data statements. So we choose AmigaBASIC again, and this time we choose VSprite data. So again, I'm going to call it p1.da2. Now extensions are very important. This is the only way that Raster Master knows which format you're trying to save. So if you change the extension, it doesn't know what format you want. So make sure to keep the same extensions. All right. So I've exported that, and if I go back into Visual Studio Code, I could bring that in. Let's just select new file. Actually, just select open file. And we called it P1. I think this is it. Was it? Yeah, VSprite. Yeah. No, that's not it. No, it is. It is. Okay. We'll see when we display it. All right. So if we look here, it gives us the size of how many elements in the data statements. It's 124, and this is very important because we are going to uncomment this and call this P1 $sign. P1 $sign. So this little bit of code basically reads those data statements. 124, yep. So we're going to read all that into this P1 variable, and what I will do is put it basically, let's go with 200 here, so it will be right beside it. Save. And back here, Okay, my emulator is a little screwed up. I'm going to relaunch that. Now, it wasn't because of anything I just did. It seems that if you run the Amiga emulator continuously, once it reaches around 24 hours or so, it starts acting screwy, just like the mouse jumping all over the place. So I've seen it before. It's not the first time it's happened. So the only way I know to fix it is restart. So that's what we're doing here. Let's make this a little bigger. Okay. And I made a mistake somewhere. $124, yeah. Okay, let's try that again. Out of data. That looks right. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's 120 plus 4. Oh, I know what. So I think because it didn't have a line feed at the end of the line at the last data statement, it can't read forward. So let's go back and reload this. Hopefully this time it should work. All right. Okay, good. So here we go. It's the exact same thing, but we read it differently. We read it through data statements instead of reading it through a file. And so this is good if you have small images, 16 pixels, and you want to use them in a game or something, and you want to have your own palette for those colors. That's different than the standard palette. You can now do this in Raster Master, and it'll save the palette for you. All right, so let's just stop this, and now I'm going to draw something bigger because that's what the purpose of the bobs are for, so we can draw a bigger shape. So this time I will copy the whole thing, and now you'll notice that um, the colors here, once I save it as a Bob, it will not use these colors. It will use the default palette. So if we go here and switch the palette back, it will use these colors. I should just re. Well, that's an interesting bug now. Okay, I'll need to fix that. Again, we say we select from the AmigaBASIC menu, and this time we select Bob binary, and let's move on to let's call it Bob 1 now. So now I can change this and put Bob 1 OBJ. That was the extension. So now if we save this and go back to our Amiga emulator, reload the code. Okay. Let's move this over. Okay, it's this one. Let's move over all the way across. It's too far now. Let's go 220. Ah. Okay, here we go. So now we can see that, like I said, it doesn't use the the uh, the same palette colors as the VSprite did. It just uses the default colors. So whatever the palette is, and so whatever these colors are by default, if you don't load up a new palette into AmigaBASIC, it's going to draw them in the default colors. And let's export this as basic data statements now. Export, again, the same thing, except this time instead of OBJ, we select AmigaBASIC Bob data, and that's DA1. So Bob1, DA1. And back to Visual Studio Code. Let's open that up. Bob1, DA1. All right, so this one's a little bigger, 458. All right, make sure there's a line feed here so we don't have it the same problem as before. And change this to 458. And this will load the new Bob instead of the VSprite. So let's save that. Come back here again. Stop. Load g2.bas and okay, so we have both images, but they're too close together. Let me move them. Let's move one close to the top. There we go. So both both of these loaded just fine. They're exactly the same image, but we loaded one from a file and one from data statement. So those are the new features in Raster Master for AmigaBASIC. Hopefully this will help the two of you out there that are still using AmigaBASIC and myself, because I'm still a big fan of AmigaBASIC. And I think that's it for this video. I have been writing some code, and I'll be creating a few more videos explaining what I've been doing. It's mostly Amiga file formats, but I've made it work with Free Pascal. So if you're interested in that, look out for some of those new videos. I think I've done a couple, but I'll be doing some more explaining the packing algorithm. All right, again, that's it for this video.